So your alarm doesn't go off in the morning, and you realize you might be a little late, which is kind of today, by the way. You rush out and you get out the door, and then you don't have time to make some breakfast, so you go to your nearest restaurant, the favorite place, and this is how you feel the line. It's not that long, but there's a person in front of you, and they're taking forever to order, and you're stressing out, you're feeling irritated, and then the cashier feels irritated, you feel irritated, you're both stressing out, you finally order, you get your food, you realize it's the wrong order, you have to talk to the cashier, you get your food and you're out the door. But how you just started your day off on the wrong foot. And you're already feeling stressed, and that can definitely affect your whole day. But today I want to contrast the difference between distress and eustress and the effect that it can have on your life. I am certain that a large majority of you guys have experienced a similar situation. And if you haven't, then I'm sure that a lot of you guys have experienced both types of stress, given that we're all in this Speech 100 class and going to college. So first I want to talk about distress. And the Psychology Journal basically describes distress as is when the good stress or eustress becomes too much to handle and the tension begins to build. Nancy Darling, that earned a PhD in psychology, explains distress in the following way. We feel distress when the resources demanded of us outstrip the resources we have. Distress is a negative emotional reaction to the output of resources. And a lot of us can relate to this picture. Pretty much there's a lot of responsibilities and things on your shoulders and things that you have to deal with that turn into bad stress. This shows a really good example of finals week, and it's the best example that I can give you guys to show this. And pretty much say you have 2 classes or even three classes in one single day, and maths, English, science, and they're completely different subjects. If you were a good student, you probably studied early and you're good to go. But there's a lot of procrastination in college, and you feel a little distressed because you're trying to cram as much information as possible. But there's only so much that you can learn the night before. So you are definitely feeling distressed at this point. But the thing is that this is not a very good state that you want to be in, especially because it could lead to physical problems if you continue to be in this state. Some of those are, you could even have like high blood pressure or like something so minimal as to break out. Behavior could also be affected. You could start overeating or experience loss of appetite, or some people it even leads to smoking. So I talked about distress, the bad stress, and now I want to talk about eustress, the good stress. And another point that I want to make and emphasize clearly is that not all types of stress is bad, because the bad stress, which I just mentioned, that's what you want to avoid and minimize. But the good stress, eustress, is what you want to strive for. So the dictionary describes eustress as a healthful or giving the feeling of fulfillment. And the pressure is good for you, as you can infer from this code. Eustress causes motivation, and it's what gives you the need to succeed. This is what I meant earlier by we're all sitting in this class and we're going to college because we're all striving to build a career for ourselves and better our lives. And it is eustress that motivates us to succeed, or you want to pursue a promotion in your work, or work harder to achieve a goal that and just pretty much your productivity is not as high as it could potentially be, because overall you're not really motivated to do much. And eustress right here, you can see that you're at the peak of your productivity because you're not too stressed out, but you are feeling a little pressure. And then it's when you chew off a little more than you can chew that it becomes distress and your positivity level goes down. So in conclusion, basically the most important things that I talked about were the eustress, the bad stress, and distress, the good sorry. The good stress, which is eustress, and distress, which is the bad stress. And so something that I want to leave with you guys is that not all stress is bad. I just want to make that a little clear, and that we can work to minimize the stress by planning ahead, and just focusing more on eustress will make your life better.
So, Andy, what did you think?
Well, I thought that your thesis was very clear about the good stress and the bad stress. I thought that she laid out the speech very well. She gave us that the whole topic about the good stress, bad stress, and explaining it very well. She did use the citation was, like you said, otherwise it was, in some cases she did, in some cases she didn't. Like when she talked about the health consequences, about the blood pressure going on, some people need to smoking, all that stuff, she did a slight portion about that one. I thought her visual was very good with the graph and the level of productivity. And I like how she defined eustress and distress. Besides that, it was just the language. Sometimes it didn't help her. It was just choppy. But overall, I thought it was very good speech.
Okay. Yeah, well, I would say the one place that was really choppy was the transition when you went from distress to eustress. It just seemed like all of a sudden we were there, and you suddenly realized that we were there, and it didn't feel like you had planned it at all. And suddenly the visual pops up, and there we are. It's just one of those sorts of things. So I can kind of understand what he's talking about there. I'd also agree with him about the source citations. I thought that you started off with an okay reference with the dictionary definitions telling us what the difference between them is. When it came to all of the negative aspects of distress, I didn't hear any sources being presented on that information. And your examples of eustress, the positive kinds of things, I think they're adequate. I think you need to maybe personalize them a little bit more. Also, this would be a place where some additional research might be helpful, showing people needing to be able to have some level of stress in order, like you said, to make an advancement. The image that you show, what was the phrase that you had up there in the neon? The pressure is good for you. Pressure is good for you. They've always had that kind of slogan in a gym: no pain, no gain. That kind of stuff. In other words, if you aren't exerting yourself, you're not making any progress. And that's the kind of stress that is really helpful for you, is that you're doing that sort of thing. If you're exercising and it's an effort, it's sweat, you feel tired afterwards, well, that is stress, but it's the kind of stress that's giving you productivity. On the other hand, if you're passing out and falling down, if you're giving yourself heart palpitations, then you've reached the level of distress that we're talking about here. The graph that you have at the end, I think, is good, kind of showing where these things are relative to each other. I just don't know, how do we know when we get to one point or the other that that there's enough involvement? Is there any way of measuring that? That would be something that would also be interesting. But like you said, you had some pretty good examples on those things. I didn't hear a preview. So Andy said that he thought he heard one. I didn't hear one. I just knew what the topic area was, and that we're going to get kind of a comparison on that. So if it's like definition, negative effects, definition, positive effects, that would be a little bit clearer. I think I'm imposing that on what you did more than you structuring it for us. And at the end of the speech, that would be maybe a good summary to do kind of help us figure out, okay, I've heard all this information, how do I structure it and remember it? I think that would be something that would be helpful to have at the end of the presentation. The visuals, for the most part, except for the one graph that you had, are mostly just transition kinds of things to tell us where we are at any given point. We're talking about distress right now because you've got the cartoon character with all the stuff carrying on his back. Or we're talking about eustress now because we've got the slogan up here and the flashy neon that tells us that kind of thing. So I know it's obviously hard to visualize stuff. I did like the little joke at the beginning, with the, I like the attention device. I thought all of that was pretty solid. And lines, there are only 3 people in line sometimes, but you feel like there are 10,000 of them in front of you. And the cashier had one thing different and you feel like everything has gone wrong. And I like the way that you kind of introduce the concept of stress with that. So I thought that worked really well. All right, thank you.